Welcome everybody in to, I guess, the first content creation stream, the first Sulack content creation stream. I personally have been working with multimedia since, actually probably working with multimedia for more than 15 years now. I'm 30 at the moment. I've been doing this stuff since I was 15 years old in school. I've worked in a multimedia industry, not in the entertainment industry, but actually in the construction documentation industry, where I spent about 3 years learning the ins and outs of what it takes to build a multimedia company that is highly efficient and highly detailed and focused specifically on the documentation of structures. Now, this does translate quite a bit over into the actual entertainment world, the multimedia industry. All of the tools are the same. All of the concepts are the same, except in many cases, I've noticed that in the entertainment industry, they're actually really inefficient on the way people do things because it's not dependent on a project. The construction industry, for example, is it requires things to happen on time. And if you're not synced around the construction project, then you're not going to be, or they're not going to be your client. They're not going to be paying you any money. So with this in mind, we have to be able to think about all the content creation we do as professional. This is going to be professional work. Even if you are going to open up a Microsoft Paint view like many of my viewers have seen before, you should have an idea that you are going to be as clear as possible, that you are going to frame things in a structured way. Even if you're not the best at it, one of the biggest things I'm going to always emphasize is most of content creation is changing who you are from the person that you are right now, which doesn't know much about content creation, or does know a little bit about content creation and hasn't gotten into it, into somebody who understands and who can create a video or can create a picture or can create an animation. Not instantly. I'm not gonna be that guru that's like, wow, in 60 minutes I'll make you a master. But at least you'll understand what every single part of the industry is saying when somebody says, I am dealing with compression, when I am dealing with certain color spaces, I am dealing with file sizes, I am dealing with whatever. Okay, there's a lot of little tiny bits and pieces you'll hear people talk about in this industry that to the average person make absolutely no sense. But hopefully, guys, by the end of this stream, you should know literally everything, or at least have enough information that when someone speaks to you, you can stop and go, wait a minute, can you explain this to me in the way that I understand it? And you'll have a full understanding of what they're talking about, as opposed to just not understanding anything at all with the bunch of jargon that's out there in this media industry. Okay, so we're gonna start with probably the most basic thing ever. And most people will be going like, why are we even bringing this up? But I'm going to do it anyways because it is stupid and simple, and I'm giving you a lot of build up to it because it is, I don't know, it is really, really simple. Well, it's files and folders. Okay, files and folders, the basis of any project that you build. Everything is going to be built off of files and folders. If you are a mobile user, the mobile industry has done an excellent job at making it really hard for you to understand the files and folder structures in your device. But really, when you connect your phone to a computer, you'll see that it is just a series of files and folders. I'm not going to plug it in right now. I'm not going to plug my phone in, but if I was to do that, if I was to pop my phone in, it would actually appear as a device on the left-hand side of my screen. I can see Culprit talking. I love it, dude. Please. I'm going to be just going away on this information, so definitely all the extra stuff, do it. Excellent, please. Now, it is a little bit of a headache understanding what is a file and what is a folder, or what is where, and especially too when you are on Apple's infrastructure, the iOS infrastructure. They don't necessarily directly deal with files and folders. They have files and folders in the system, but it's not as intertwined as the vast majority of other computer systems. But it still matters that you understand them. I have had a lot of people out there go, I just want to make pictures. I just want to make video. I don't want to have to deal with all this complex back-end stuff. But I'm going to tell you right now, absolutely right now, if you master your file and folder system, then your content creation down the line will be so much faster and so much more efficient than anybody else out there that you will just out-content compete anybody that you're trying to directly out-content compete. Now, course, the quality depends on you and the community depends on you, but content is there. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with a basic folder. We're just going to call this our streaming content project. And you'll see this folder that I have right here, actually, guys, is terrible, okay? I have stuff all over the place. That's because I have a billion different projects going on. But we'll use this as is. So keep in mind, guys, I'm not the best at this. There's a reason why, but also too, this is something a lesson I learned early on that I don't always apply, but I do my best to apply. All right, we're gonna call this the stream content creation folder. Now, what this does, whenever we work in a project and we have everything within this container, we know that this is the final resting place for anything else that we do. There's a lot of people who will copy and save photos, files straight to their desktop, straight into a folder. It'll end up looking like my documents folder in a way, which, trust me, it's a lot more organized than it looks. It's organized chaos. But if you have everything in one place, you'll see later on in a little bit on the stream why this matters so much and why you're like labeling everything too, in a way. I'm just gonna keep saying it, just makes everything so much easier. But I'll slowly stop saying that. I want to rub it in more than anything else, because young Sulack young, I'm talking to you 10 years ago, didn't apply these things at all and learned his lesson quite a bit. Now, every single time you create a new project, you always want to create some form of assets folder. A lot of companies out there will use different words for this. It could be pictures, data, there's a whole bunch of other variations of it. But we are going to create an assets folder, because the assets folder is going to contain all of the little pieces of your project. It's not going to be the whole project together, but when we consider, let's say, actually, wrong side, you see this Sulack logo down here, this S logo? That S logo would be something that we put into the assets folder. The viewer RSS feeds that you see at the top, that is something that we put into our into our assets folder. There are going to be other folders that you can create, like a new folder would be docs or documents. This is going to be a place for notes. So if you're going to be putting in, if you have a storyline, if you have some form of text, if you have some screenshots of something that you want to do, a docs folder always makes content creation so much easier, because you can reference back and forth between your assets and docs. You also want to have another folder that is for, it can be called a cache folder in many cases. It can be treated like a cache folder, but really this is going to be your, I have all sorts of names and setups for them. But normally I'll put in something like, just other. Heck, why not? I know I don't have a specific system in place. You should have a specific in place. Like other, what does other mean? Other means every little bit of junk that you want to add into the project that you may not know where it goes. So for example, if I'm making a video and I start up the intro section, my other folder is actually my intros section, because I'll render out the whole intro first. I'll make the whole intro first, slap it into the other folder, because it's not the full project yet, and it's not even an asset that I'm using. It's just a test thing. I'm just seeing how well it works. And then that way, all of those like extra garbagey things that you're not sure where they go in the project, they end up in some type of folder that you can go back and reference later if you need to. If you forget how you've done something, if you've misplaced something, it's usually the place for the other folder. Now, that is the three main folders, okay? I cannot emphasize this enough. If you do not have three folders, one for all the assets, one for the documents, and one for all the other stuff, go do it right now. There will be ways that we can build this inside projects, so inside file types, but there's a reason for this. We'll get into that again later more than anything else. Assets. So let's go into assets. We'll start with what is an asset. What are we talking about when we consider something like, what do we consider an asset, right? Well, an asset can be any piece or part of your stream that you want to place in a spot. So if I want to add new image assets, I'm going to have an asset folder, and inside I'm going to have images. What I'm also going to have is a new folder. We're going to call this text. Test. My X's key's broken. Test. Text. Text, text, text. Because if I have raw text, if I go in here and I can actually create a new, let's do a rich text document. And we're going to call this, title screen. We now have some form of document, it's an RTF file, where I can put text in for the title screen, save it. Actually, this is not the best way of doing it. I've done a reinstall recently of Windows and haven't, there's other ways of doing it. Sorry, let's just do, I can switch the file type. Oh, we'll talk about file type. We'll get there. Anyways, I want to put my text files in the asset text folder. That's the real summary of it. It doesn't matter what type of text folder it is. You can see here there's a variety, like open document text, which is this little marker at the end. I'll explain that in just a second. There's a whole bunch of different text style systems, TXT, RTF in there that you can place. So it doesn't matter what type of text it is, you can place it here. Even if it could be a screenshot, for example. So if I want a screenshot of some text, I would consider actually putting it inside the text folder. So an image of text goes inside the text folder because that's important. That's where all the text goes. Okay, so now that we have these two folders, what is the difference between an image and a text file? If we go into the text file, you guys can see there are these like dot something at the end of them. Every single asset, every single document, every single video, every single picture that you use will be some form of file type. Every single one. Now, there's so many companies out there, there's so many systems out there, and you could actually create, if you wanted to, you technically, in theory, could create your own file type, your own dot something. There's so many out there that you are going to have to learn. A large majority of what you do is learning about how to move programs and move documents from one file type or one system to another. The vast majority of these files you can open up. If I want to have text in here and then I want to have text in this other one, usually it's pretty easy for me just to copy and paste. There's a variety of different ways of doing it too, where you can actually change this last little bit. But what is the last little bit? When I keep referencing .odt, .txt, .anything, .rtf, what is that? That is the designator that tells your computer what type of program it needs to open up in. If you right click, and we're assuming you're using Windows, but it's the same thing on every single other operating system out there. If you open this up and you right click and you say open with, if I select choose another app, I can actually select the default app to open this file with. And it's only going to be defined by this little dot at the end. So right now I'm opening this file with the writer tool that I have. In some cases, you can change this extension, this little thing at the end, to open it up in different programs. You can do that. But some programs won't open things up in other programs that well. If I was to take an image, let's take let's just go to my pictures, and we're gonna take this picture of, this picture's great. It's Chihuahua or Muffin. It's an AI test right here. Chihuahua or Muffin. And now we're going to take what's called a .jpeg, which is your image type, .jpeg. And now we're going to change its last little bit to .txt. Of course, the computer will warn me. Oh, I didn't, 1 second here. X is broken on my keyboard. TXT. It'll warn me, hey, this file might not be openable. But then if I open it, this is actually the image in text form, which is crazy. But the image is still there. Okay. Whenever people are opening up or deciding what type of program or what type of systems they want to use, most of the time they decide program first and then file type later. Well, when you're building content on the internet, you want to find the best program to open up the type of system that you're using. So if I'm dealing with images, I want to have a relatively good image setup. Oh, I'm probably getting a spam caller. Go away, spam caller. Okay. Now, some programs will just do it no matter what. I'm not going to go into the complexity of a file type and what goes into those file types and how those file types work. We will do that later on, but just so you're aware, every little bit of content that you're using has a file container. And these file containers are varied. You can see if I do JPG or if I do JPEG, it's actually going to be the same thing. The computer is going to know that JPEG or JPG is a file or a specific image type. So the question is now, I have all these files or I have all these systems. What do I use to create these files? If I want to make a video or I want to make an image or I want to do anything for anybody at all, what do we use? Well, the industry has standards. We have the Microsoft 347 suite, I think it's called, which is like Microsoft Office, Excel, and there's a bunch of the Microsoft tools that are involved with whatever's in there. Anyways. But those file types, actually too, even like with video content, a lot of people go with Adobe products, for example. But there's a lot of programs out there that do the exact same thing as these specialized programs, but they just are limited in their scope. I'm going to recommend a website that everybody goes to if you haven't yet, if you're looking to be a content creator in any way, that gives you actually a large list of free tools. This is all free tools that you can install just through one click. And I'll show you my list of tools. I use everything in this list, or I have used most of these things in the list, and they are excellent tools and they always work for me. And anyways, I'll break this down and we'll go into like what these file types are and how to edit them a little bit later once we break down this program. But I think this is really important. Okay, ninite.com, guys, Ninite. When I worked, I'd done a little bit of IT work before. This was the go-to. When we helped documentation specialists build out their computers, this was the website that you went to, because 99% of the things on here are high quality and free and easy to use. Okay, big ones, web browsers, of course. You can use whatever web browser you want, but what I want people to look at is this media section right here. Now, there is imaging and documents and a few other small bits. We can peek into that in just a second. And I'll show you some more functional tools that are really nice for a content creator that are not just media tools. But if we go on this media list, the #1 program everybody has, and if you don't have it right now, even if you don't do content creation, go download it, go to their main website, use Ninite, whatever it is VLC. The VLC media player. Check that box off. I can bring it up here. This is the best tool on the internet for playing video content anywhere, everywhere, at all times, no matter what. Do it right now. It will play literally everything you give it. Anytime, there's actually some codecs. We'll talk about codecs in a little bit later here on what they are. But there are certain file types that programs like the Windows Media Player or whatever it is now, the Windows Video Player, will not play. VLC is, I cannot emphasize getting it enough. If you watch videos on your computer at all, you download things, go for it. Absolutely. Another big one is Audacity. Okay, Audacity, if I pop over here, is a recording program for your voice. So you can press record, do a little jingle, and stop, and here you go, you have your entire recording. This is excellent for voiceovers. Is a recording program for your voice. So you can press record. Oh, sorry guys, it's peaking like crazy on that end. I just quickly recorded it as is, but Audacity, if you are looking for a video editing program, an audio editing program at all, this is so base standard. Okay, it might even piss some people off who are experts in audio. They'd be like, this is such a simple program, but it is so powerful. And especially for content creation to start out, it is free, and it has a variety of different effects and tools that you can use to make whatever you want. It is amazing. I use it for everything. Okay. And I have FL Studios, and I have I have an older version of Ableton, and I have an old Cubase license. I don't use any of those. I use FL Studios occasionally, but Audacity is the go-to for any audio recording. Any waveform recording, I'll point out too. It doesn't have to be audio, but I'm not going to go into what that is. A little, we'll get into there. Another major one for everybody is Handbrake. Okay, if you are not using Handbrake and you are dealing with video, download it right now and get it. Get it. Even if you don't plan on using it right away, even if you have a subscription to the entire Adobe suite, and no, Handbrake is a video re-encoding software. Let me just pull this up. That allows you, if for some reason you mistake one little bit of video and you render it out the wrong way, or you record it the wrong way, this program will save your recordings. It does take a while to go and update and change to figure out the exact resolution that you want, to figure out the exact settings, but get it. Handbrake. We used it professionally. Absolutely. Jump on that. Going over to imaging. Okay. Now, there's some special, 1 second here. It's like, guys, hey, please by the door, thanks. Okay, sorry about that. I have people talking about my door. Okay, so imaging. Now, if you're a basic artist and you're looking for just a nice little paint tool, I would absolutely recommend Krita, okay? It is not the best photo editor out there, not the best image editor. It works really well, though. If you just want to relax and draw stuff, go get it. Go try it out. If you're an artist in any way, it is a fun little tool. Blender, for those who deal with 3D models or thinking about dealing with 3D models, another exceptionally complicated system, but very robust, okay? We're not going to go into any Blender tools today, but definitely you might want to grab it if you are considering any form of larger content creation. GIMP. All right, GIMP is number one. I do not care even if you already have Photoshop. You might want to use Photoshop for 99% of what you're doing, but GIMP is the image manipulation program, GNU, image manipulation GIMP, which is the name of it. That I believe it came from Linux operating systems first, but they ported it over to Windows and has become my go-to for image editing across the board. It is free. It is almost just as powerful as Photoshop. Of course, you don't get all the fun little Photoshop AI tools that they have nowadays, but if you're looking just to create text, create logos, edit photo, change color, this is the place to do it. Welcome in High Five. I am doing a video content creation few hours here where I share my experience on how I do all my content creation. I'm just going to do a quick acknowledge hi because I am going to be recording this and throwing this up on YouTube. Welcome in. If you want to hang out, learn a little bit about content creation, this is the place to do it right now. I just won't be too responsive within chat, but I appreciate it. Anyways, GIMP, we will be doing a lot of our descriptions. Oops, I've actually opened up Godot, which is another excellent tool. But we'll be doing a lot of our stuff a little bit later on GIMP. So if you do want to try and follow along with me at all, if you feel like you want to learn a bit more about images, download GIMP. And once we get to that section, we'll actually jump over all the little bits of GIMP that will help you become a better content creator. Okay, another big one is Irfan View. I don't know how to describe it, but this program is also one that we use professionally too. It is the VLC version for images. It will open up any image that you give it. It is great. Okay. I don't know how else to put it. Also, Greenshot. If you're looking at somebody who's doing a lot of screenshots, Greenshot's pretty good. It's actually more powerful than the built-in screenshot tool within Windows, which I don't really use Greenshot. I used to use it a lot more in the past, but since Windows now has their excellent screenshot tool, I can show everybody how that works. But if you're interested, give it a go anyways. For documents, I highly recommend OpenOffice, just so you can have somewhere to write things down. It's a free version of Word. Check it out. It's a good way to write stuff. I don't know how else to put it. In terms of everything else, compression is really important, guys. Actually, there's two ones here. Sorry. Everything. This program right here. Everything. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna have to probably close a program here. more details, performance, when it was running. Anyways, everything allows you to search through your computer exceptionally fast. If I pull up my version of everything here, it, like, every single folder, photo thing, hopefully you guys don't see anything crazy on there, is searched within everything. The typical Windows search when you're looking for a file is absolutely terrible. So if you want to find some recording that you did a while ago that has that was, I don't know, recorded at a specific date, and you know that date, or I really don't know, like there's a million things that you can search up with the with everything. So definitely check that out. Another big one, guys, too, is ZZip and WinRAR. I recommend getting both of them. This is for compression, and we'll talk a little bit later about compression. We'll go into what compression is and how it works. But this is lossless file compression for ZZip and for WinRAR. They both technically do the exact same thing, technically, but there are cases where you might want to use one or the other first. So I would recommend either one. I have not used pzip, so I cannot recommend that. I don't know too much about it from there. Okay, so files, folders, programs, applications. We went over not how important file creation is, but we went over like what you should be doing for all of your files and folders and projects. We looked at what programs you guys should be using. Let me just pull this up too. Where is it? Okay, we're gonna go into media. Okay, what is media? Oh, I see my camera's lagging a little bit. That's fine. Whatever, we'll go with this. What is media and how does media work? Well, the basis of all media is resolution. Even when you're considering audio, and I'm not going to go over audio too much today. I'll mention a few things in that, but everything has a resolution. And what is resolution? Well, resolution is how high detailed the thing that you're doing is. If you were to start a new project in any program out there that does multimedia, so if you're in a video program or you're in an imaging program, you're going to have to select a resolution. We're going to keep it simple at the moment. We're going to do 100 by 100 resolution. The explanation of what a pixel is, a lot of people will know right away, but I'm still going to do it anyways, because there's usually a few things that people miss within what is a pixel. You can see here there's templates. This is going to be different shapes and sizes for different styles and setups of imagery. So for example, you can actually see there's a toilet paper section here. So if you wanted an image that was the size for toilet paper and you were doing some form of toilet paper print, you could select this and it would by default give you about the average size for your toilet paper prints. There's a variety in there. You can see like video content and for specific like Samsung Galaxies and iPhones. You'll see these settings everywhere, but they all are just resolution. We're not going to worry about the advanced options right now. So here we have a base image. I use orange. It's nice and bright. If we were to zoom in, it just looks like a big square. But what I can do is actually, if I pull the selector out, now I'm not going to go over the individual tools inside GIMP and inside the programs that I'm using, but I will try to describe them from a much more general perspective. So if you're using even Microsoft Paint, these tools will pretty much be the exact same. So, we want the rectangular select. So if I go to rectangular select, you'll actually see that it steps a little bit if you take a look. And what that stepping is the pixels. If we open up, there's a way for us to create a grid. 1 second here. View. We're going to show the grid. And I'm going to view. We're going to image. Configure grid. I'm going to change this grid so that every single square is a pixel. Now, a pixel is the smallest unit inside your image. We've all seen pixel art. If I was to pull this up on the internet and I look up pixel art, here we go, images. You can see pixel art is squared off and it's very blocky. The reason for this is because it requires more processing power to have more pixels. In the old days of computing, back in the old days of computing, we had limited processing power. So when, here, I'm just trying to set this up, let's say, sorry. So when we made games and when we made content media, it had to be low resolution, because every single time you add a new pixel, that's a new system that the computer has to calculate. You'll notice if you open up, and I'm not going to stress my computer right now because I'm streaming, if you were to open up an image with 100,000 pixels by 100,000 pixels, there's a very good chance that your computer would slow way, 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 way down. The cool thing about that is that that pixel art is actually an art style. So if your computer isn't capable of doing large images or working with lots and lots of pixels, lots and lots of segments, lots and lots of sections, you can actually reduce the quality of whatever you're doing to match the amount of processing power that you have. In video, you can actually create something that is like a proxy. So if it's too slow to edit a video in one way, you can create a smaller version of that video, and you can edit that smaller version of the video and then insert the higher end version when you're doing the actual completion of it. So the reason why I'm pointing this out is because a lot of the times people come up against struggles that are processing related. They'll pile and pile and pile and pile and pile things on their computer or on their content, not really realizing how much they've added to their system and how much overhead they've used up, essentially. Okay, so that's just a quick little overview on the large idea of pixels. But when we're making images, what are we looking at and how are we looking at the pixels? And actually, you'll see a really interesting thing. I don't know if you guys can see on your screen, and it probably is. These grids don't look exactly pixel per pixel. If I zoom in, you guys probably can see there's patterns that change, okay? The reason for this is because this pixel grid doesn't match up with the pixel grid on your phone, on your computer screen, on your anything, right? What it's trying to do is it's trying to display the same image, but it can't match up pixel per pixel what is on my frame right here. So it's doing some guessing. This is called compression, okay? Hopefully you guys can see this across the board on yours. Mine looks like a straight flat line. So compression matters quite a bit. We'll go into the details of compression, but you can go in here and actually we'll create a new layer when you're creating imagery. 1 second. Culprit says witchcraft, big brother watching you through the lines. Yeah, it makes a weird visual effect, doesn't it? But let's pull this up here. Okay, so we have our background, right? We can actually create a new layer. And the vast majority of content is set up like this. When I mentioned before running out of processing power because you've used too much of whatever, this is an example of how an image can become significantly more complicated without actually adding more pixels. Now, the file that this program will create will be relatively large, and keep in mind, when we finish it, it's going to compress it down so you just have that grid of pixels. But we're dealing with editing right now. So we create a second layer. What does that second layer do? How does it work? What's the purpose of it? Well, we can now do edits on top. Whoops. Can I paint? Is it going to let me paint? Or am I going to have to... Why isn't that letting me paint? Is there something I'm missing here? Something I'm missing here. It should. There we go. Okay, there we go. For some reason, the paint tool, I don't know. Something's weird with it. Okay. So, you can see if I use my paint tool and I start running it across here, if we zoom right in, this is actually steps. Because every single one of those blocks is a pixel. If we zoom out really far, it starts to look straighter and straighter. That is how your monitor works. When you go and you buy a 1080p monitor from the store, it is just 1080 squares tall, 1920 I think across, 1920 across, and they're so small that the really big steps, the really big grids in there, are what will become the small smooth lines that we're used to seeing. Now there are tricks. We're going to go in there. There are small tricks involving making these images look in different ways. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to directly export this image. And I'm going to export it as a JPEG, and I'm going to export it as a PNG. Okay, so you guys can see the difference. File, export as. Now, keep in mind, guys, we did start our project folder. So if we're going to be saving this image in, we're going to have to go to our project folder, which should be, if I remember where I put it, somewhere in the stream, it was right at the top, stream content creation folder. We're going to throw this in assets, images, and we're going to label this image low. We're going to be specific, 100, 100, or 100x 100 logo. And notice, I'm going to save this as PNG. Okay, we'll export as PNG. Now, where did this pop up? There should be a window. There's a bunch of different settings that pop up. Okay, what those settings are and how those settings work, you'll understand a little bit later. But keep in mind, when I save it as a PNG, that's a different file type than a JPEG. Okay, those are going to have different functions, and they're actually going to have different settings. You'll see this example, compression level, right here. We're actually going to press this 0. I think that's, if I remember correctly, assets, images. So now we know exactly where this is. If we open this image up, why is it blurry? Why is it blurry? Does anybody have any... I haven't asked chat at all, but does anybody have any answers for this? Does anybody know why it's blurry? I'm not going to let you guys wait for too long. That's because this program is blurring it. So programmers realize people don't always want to see pixels. They don't want to zoom in. If I was to pull up an image, let's do pictures. We'll pick up our, there's our muffin or chihuahua picture. If you zoom in, you don't want everything to be hard, flat pixels. You want a nice, smooth gradient. So computer scientists figured out that for the vast majority of programs that we're going to open things up in, we're going to smooth out those lines. Now, if I was to save it as, let's save as a JPEG instead. Oops. Export as, sorry. Export as JPEG, JPG. Export. Oh, no, PNG. I want JPG. Come on. JPG. Export. Why isn't it? There we go. So export quality. You actually see there's some different settings here because JPEG is a little bit different. I'm going to pull the quality of the JPEG all the way down. Now, how do you make a picture with just pixels, less pixels? How do you make it less quality? Do you actually make it less pixels? So if I was to take the image, do I make it smaller? If I was to go, I'll just show you scale image. We're going to do 50% scaled. We zoom in. No. It makes a blurry. You see that, guys? It changes it just a little bit. Okay. Well, they do the same thing. Except, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? This is what it looks like. Why? Why did we just create two images and save them, and they look totally different from the image that we have on GIMP? It's going to be the same thing with every single program you guys have. Well, it's because the two different file types, JPEG and PNG, store information in different ways. A JPEG image doesn't actually save the whole image, but it saves it in smaller squares. It saves it by 8x8 pixel squares. I'm not going to go into the specifics of it, but you can see how the program, it gives you the general look, the general feel of this image here. but it's chopped it up. It's added extra colors because programmers realized real early on that they don't need to recreate the exact image. They don't need to have the exact same image to have somebody see something that looks extremely similar to something else. So what they do is they do these tricks. And when you save a file, when you save an image into JPEG, it's actually going through, changing a whole bunch of the pixels and making some variation of this. You could see very clearly too, if you look at our muffin or chihuahua photo, you see it's JPEG top left corner, super tiny, but you guys can see it there. If I was to zoom in really tight, you can still sort of see the squares. You can sort of see those squares that are in there. Now, people make the mistake, it's a common mistake, just to think an image is an image. When I export, it's a JPEG. I hear people call everything JPEG. It's not always true. When you're looking for content that you want to create and you want to build something, you want things in the highest possible setting for you to edit. If I was now to open this image, let's say I were to pull this image here, in theory, I'm going to paste this right over top of it so you guys can see. In theory, this should copy in the exact same. But, the big but is it doesn't want to show the layer. What? Or is that? No, wait, it is. It is what I'm talking about. Okay. Sorry. I meant but with the JPEG. Sorry. So you can see with the PNGs actually preserve everything inside the image. They preserve every little detail. But if I was to pull the JPEG in, what the heck is that? So learning your file types, setting yourself up with correct file types, in the long run is going to matter more than anything else for the quality of your images. We have seen, and I'll mention this too, High Five's in chat, because High Five does a lot of his rendering on a mobile platform. Mobile platforms take a lot of shortcuts. They take so many shortcuts, and they'll take that shortcut with your video content too. We'll go into video content in a few minutes here, but I really want to emphasize this because every single thing that you make, I don't want to close this too much, will have a level of quality to it, and you're going to have to maintain that level of quality throughout all of production. This matters when flipping file types in any way. The vast majority of times, when you change a file type from, let's say, a PNG to a JPEG, you are now dealing with what's called compression. I mentioned this earlier on when, I was like, okay, well, we'll talk a little bit about compression and what compression is, but there's actually multiple types of compression. This is image compression. It means that inside the file that you have, this image is going to do its best to look like the image that you originally had, but it's not going to be the exact same image, which is known as lossy compression. When you get information, when you're talking back and forth with people, you need to know whether you're dealing with lossy information or lossless information. Most PNGs, I know there's exceptions. I can hear other people with lots of content creation experience going, oh my God, Sulack, PNGs can lose data, no problem. Yes, they can. I know that. But this is an excellent example, like a direct example, and JPEGs are way worse for it. So the question is now, why did it change the color? Is anyone curious about that? Why would this go from a bright orange to a soft orange? Whoops, there it is right there. Well, we're going to go over to Paint, Paint 3D to describe it. This has to do with file sizes, how large your images are, how large your videos are. Because let's say you have color, and we're going to do color of, yeah, whatever, red, blue, and we have green. Oh, come on, green. And when a computer looks at the data, it's going to look at the levels for each. These are the scales. Now, computers are not like dials. They don't have infinite spaces, infinite turning radiuses, infinite little bits in between. Computers have to segment things. You either have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, 8 levels. And based on whether or not, oh, I don't really have a darker. Let's say it's a low color. You're looking at a darker red versus a higher color. You're looking at like a pink, which is nearly white. And right in the middle, you got to have your regular red. Now, there are only discrete steps in between those colors. And it's going to be the same thing with blue. It's the same thing with green. The reason why a JPEG that I've compressed down like crazy would change the color is because when it goes to render the photo up, or sorry, when it goes to put the photo into a file that you can put onto your screen, it's actually reducing the amount of potential colors that the computer can use. Rather than having 8 steps, you would imagine I've reduced it down to 3 major steps. And then in the case of orange, you only have so many colors to mix together to create orange. For those who know anything about color theory, this is important, right? This is why. If you know about color theory and you don't know about computers, well, now you hopefully have matched those two concepts together between, oh, well, in real life, if I have paints, I can mix those colors and they look this no matter what, right? And I can get the right shade of it. But with computers, you only have discrete steps. The more discrete steps you have, the larger the file. I have images in my drives that are 1 gigabyte plus in size. Yes, for those who know, most files are a few megabytes. I'm talking about images that are hundreds of times, if not thousands of times, larger than the average photo. Well, that is because the amount of color information that I have in them added to the amount of pixels. Remember, this is just 1 pixel. This is just 1 pixel right here, okay? If you add this over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and then you also add real-time creation, where those pixels have to come up over and over and over again at 60 frames a second, well, you're going to have twice as much data as if it's 30 frames a second. You're packing all this information together. So this is the foundation of all data, all media, everything on the internet. If we open up video and let's pull up a YouTube video. Actually, we can pull up our royalty-free music thing here just to show everybody how this works. If I was to swap from 1080, which we get the nice, beautiful, clear crystal imagery, down to 1440, we ask ourselves, where are the cubes? Where are the squares? If it's only 144 dots down the side, why don't we see those dots? Well, if you look really closely, you can see we blurred the dots together. Another thing that comes with this, with compression, is actually a really good video by Tom Scott for video compression. And I'm not going to watch the whole thing here, but just so you guys are aware and you can see what this is. Where is it? There we go.
Have you ever noticed that video...
Let's jack this up. We'll do about 720, so it's got some limited bit rate set up. But just to show everybody, let's find video. So if you watch... Oh, come on.
Now, if you already understand interframe compression, you can pick another video. But everyone else on this incredible clip of 200...
So watch. I want to point out how this is a relatively clear image.
On this incredible clip of 200 kilos of confetti being blasted at Ed Sheeran on the UK's X Factor.
And as soon as
now, if you already understand interframe,
you can see how everything just becomes mud. And why is that? Well, it's because the computer is having a really hard time keeping the file size as low as possible, so it's not going absolutely crazy, while still making things look reasonable. So it's merging everything together. It's mixing the whites together. It's mixing the mixing all the little bits of confetti together. This is compression. You guys will see this over and over again. Now, when it comes to creating quality video, you'll almost never get raw video. Video, like the amount of images needed to create raw video, especially high resolution raw video, is immense. Most of the time guys have like literal terabyte hard drives that get filled up in a matter of minutes if they're able to record in raw 4K, 8K, 12K footage. We're talking about immense amounts. But you as a content creator, this is where I want to bring this all in to make it much more relevant to you. You as a content creator want to find the nice balance between quality video that the average person can watch and the amount of time and space that you're willing to give up to render out and store and set up large video. The more complicated it is, the harder it is to deal with. I literally just did some video content that was almost 20 gigabytes of video, and these were 10-minute videos, when the vast majority of movies are less than actually nowadays with 4K they're like maybe a few gigabytes, 5 or 6 gigabytes, a whole movie, an hour-long movie, in comparison to what I just rendered out in terms of quality. So really keep that in mind when you're developing whatever you're developing. It does take a lot to go over pixels and media, and like it's complicated, but if you understand this first, your content at the very end of your production will be so much higher quality than the average person. Okay. Oh, wait. Did I even open up? No, we're good. Okay, so now we've established what is media. Where does it exist? It exists in files. We all know this. How does it break itself down? It actually, one second. Let me pull up. I'll even point out with resolution, guys, and in terms of what's called bit depth with audio, might as well do it while we're here. If we were to zoom right in, this is the same thing as resolution in an image. For audio, all audio is a waveform, and you can come in and I can edit specific dots and make it, I don't have the editor up right now actually, but this is the resolution of the audio. In terms of its height, it's known as bit depth. Okay, in terms of how many dots per second, it's known as sample rate. I'm not going to go into the specifics of how that works, but keep in mind, just the higher the bit depth, the higher the sample rate, the higher quality the audio, but also the larger the actual the file itself. Now there are a variety of file types. If you see export, MP3, WAV, OGG, and different type MIDI outputs that you can do here. WAV is considered mostly lossless. There are ways it can be lossy. If you do an MP3, that's the reason why people like audio files don't really like MP3s, is because generally you'll lose a little bit of data. MP3 and MP4 and JPEG are all exceptionally similar. They are very similar in what they do. They simply cut down file size and lose a whole bunch of data while you're at it. How that works, there's a bunch of other stuff we can go on, like implications of this. But I think it's really important, guys, now that we go on to workflows. Because to me, a workflow is something that matters more than anything else, because it's going to matter how much content you can get out and how quick. I'm going to pull OBS over here just for a second, and you guys will get the infinite OBS view. Hi me, hi me, hi me, hi me, all the way down the list, right? Now, one thing I've learned recently, actually, we'll start with this first. Most of the time, you want to make sure that whatever you're recording is as close to the final product as possible. If I open up my settings, settings right here, and we go to video content, I'm actually recording at a base canvas resolution that's exceptionally high for what I'm doing right now. Now, I'll point out as a note, if you're recording video game footage, which has a lot of movement, which we just mentioned earlier with the confetti on the video, you actually want to bring this down a little bit. And the reason why, I'll say it, whatever. Twitch only accepts so much data per second, so you can either have larger frames with less information or less movement, or you can have smaller frames with lots of movement. So it is better generally to output, you see the resolution here, a little bit of a lower video quality. But because I'm doing recordings for YouTube, and this is where workflow matters, right? I'm gonna pick a very high quality recording resolution, but also every single time I do a segment, it's off to the side here, whoops, so you guys can peek at it. Every time I do a segment, I actually click record. This minimizes the amount of editing needed to go out and actually run through whatever you're trying to run through. It's really important when you're doing any type of recording, any type of photography, anything at all that requires live action things, that you start and stop your recordings, or you take those photos, or you take that setup at the exact moment it happens, and you frame it as something as the exact moment it happens. So when I end this whatever timed long segment about how we do video content creation, as soon as I press stop, that's going to give me my whole segment. And then either I can pull it into the video editor, do a bunch of changes on top of it, and then set it out from there. Or what I'm going to be doing is, because everything looks how I already want it to look, because everything is set up in the way that I want it to be set up, I can just upload this video straight to YouTube, because I don't need to do editing. Now there are ways that I could make this a better YouTube video, but that's not the purpose. And understanding the purpose and the function of your video is more important than making a video that's great for everybody. We know it, because honestly, we know this. If we make a really good video and work hard on it and it gets 50 views, it gets 10 views, what do? Right? But if we make a video for that thing and it gets 5 or 10 views, you can be like, well, it did the job that it was supposed to do. Now, this comes from my construction documentation experience, where you have a camera and you go to the site and your job is to record, film somebody the entire way through. They're going to be talking about random things. So pressing start and stop on the camera is part of your workflow. You know when somebody's going to be talking about whatever topic. That matters. So really keep this in mind. How are you going to segment it? There's other things people can do too. So if I really wanted to segment my section, I would let's bring up paint. Okay. And it's just going to be actual paint. And then I'll grab this. Okay. Oops. I want to resize. We're going to do this. Okay. I'll do 500, whatever. 500. This is the easiest way of doing it. I don't really do it this way, but you can. Whatever. We'll zoom right in. And I'll fill with red. And then we sit here just for a few seconds in between segments. Why? Because when I go to edit later on, I'm going to be looking for the red frame. This is another way, just another quick way for me to be able to recognize specific moments that are in between moments, whether or not they are useful, or there's all sorts of ways that we can do this. You can also do it just with visual presentations and layouts. Now, I'm not going to directly do it, but you could have the red box in the corner while it's something that's important to be recorded. And then that way, when you're going back and you're editing and you're cutting, you just need to find the frames that have these markers on it, right? And then you can mark out, okay, here's how this is set up from there. So really get creative, and it depends on the environment that you're doing things in. It depends on the game maybe that you're playing or the content that you're putting out. You have to be able to figure out some way. That is why, actually, in the old days, and still somewhat, they have that director's clap thing, and they go, and action. Why? What's the purpose of that? Well, the purpose of it is for the editor. It's not for everybody to know, to hear the snap when it goes in. It's so the editor can sync the audio of the snap with the video, and then also they can go through all the footage, find all of those snaps, and cut out individual segments. Because on a live broadcast or on even a TV show, those cameras are always rolling. They are always rolling. And how they segment them out, how they push them out, matters on, of course, on how quickly they push them out. Culprit says you can do that with pet clickers too. With pet click, are you talking like the little clicker tools? Yeah, actually, another really good way, Culprit, I think this is what Culprit is referencing, is in audio, right? You can actually have an audio chunk that when you're going through your footage, you find those audio chunks, and those are your breakpoints. Something Culprit kind of does, and maybe I'm giving him credit for something, when he thinks a great moment goes on, when he thinks a great moment happened in his stream too, he'll even say something that is relatively conclusive under the stream. So if you were to go back and you were to try and find where you should be cutting, At least you have some kind of reference as to when that segment that you want cut can be cut. At least some kind of reference to it. Culprit uses flags in Twitch. Flags in Twitch are another great way of doing it. Also, too, having your community take clips out for you. All of these little tiny bits add up to making the workflow at the very end easy. Okay. Now, what do I mean directly by workflow? And I brought this up before. So, workflow is knowing where certain assets are going to be at certain periods of time. Normally, what you'll do is if you have a project, we have a stream content creation folder. This is more of like our template. And so we would fill the template full of images and text of things that we do almost every day. Oh man, hiccups, 1 sec. Nope, we're good. So we would fill this full of the logo, the standard logo you use every single time. And every time you start a new project, once you've filled this full of all the things that you're doing, you can actually pull back. You can grab your content creation folder. Where is it again? Copy, paste. Now we have our second content creation folder, and we're going to call this video 1. Now that we're in here, we have our assets and our docs and our other content. That's just stuff that we've amalgamated together for whatever series or whatever system or whatever we're doing. And sometimes I like to have like a final render folder. Sometimes I'll render it to the main section, but I'm gonna do this just for clarity. I'm gonna have the folder here just for clarity right now, because let's say we really like this photo, and again, guys, keep in mind there's a million ways you can do this on a million different types of computers. Okay, we like this background, we like this logo. Let's change the color. We'll change it to green. Okay, edit, fill. We now have a green background. We have our logo. I'm going to copy our logo. I'm going to paste it in here. Move the logo to the bottom right of the screen. File, save as, or export as. And then we go back into our documents. Video 1. Final render. Final image.jpg. Export. Pictures, or sorry, documents. Where is it? Down bottom, I think. Video 1. Okay. Now, whenever anybody opens up this folder and they want to see the final product that you're putting together, there is your final render. Oh, why is that? There we go. There is your final render with your little logo in the corner. As you build out the project, you normally want to replace this render. Sometimes what people do too is they'll put, old in here. And then as they make new versions, Control C, Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V. So as they make new versions, they stick the old versions in here. So they always have the most up-to-date recent file project that they're working on. Now. Compression from a larger perspective and coordination with people. Let's say you've worked in your editor of choice and you put together a whole bunch of assets for any type of program or any type of setup or anything, and we have them all together in our assets folder. Well, this is where one of those programs, like the compression programs I told you, come into play. Because if you want to share them with one of your friends, or you want to share them with a collaborator, you can actually right-click this. We're going to add to assets.rar. And this folder now, this little assets.rar, is a file that I can go upload to any other service that I want. I can share it to Culprit through Discord. I can upload it to an online archive and share it to thousands of people online. My project now becomes something that can be replicated over and over and over and over again exceptionally quick. How you do this is up to you. What type of project you're working is and how you do it on that type of project is completely up to you. Whether it's you're working on a an album with music, whether you're working on a podcast, you're working on video, like fun video content, whether you're doing streams, doesn't matter what it is. As long as you've packaged together your assets in a way that can be just right-clicked and combined and sent out to somebody, you know you've done a correct job. This is the baseline. This is the absolute baseline for any type of project at all, is if you can compress the entire project into a file and send it out, you are good to go. Now, again, I don't always do that. I'm a little lazy sometimes, I'll fully admit, but I always regret every single time I start a project and don't do it this way, because it will kill you in the long run. Okay. Another major thing too off the top of this, of course, is programs and consistently, or having consistent programs and projects together. So if everybody is working in a program like DaVinci, for example, which I'm working in at the moment, you probably want to have everybody work over in DaVinci. But let's pull up, one sec, did I have anything else on this here? Assets, no, we're good. Okay, we'll pull up DaVinci. It's gonna slow down my computer like crazy, but that's fine. We'll give it a go. Okay, so a lot of programs will have the ability to put their own information in their own containers. DaVinci is one of them. I think actually I think literally every video editing program out there has it. And so you do have your projects inside your project folder inside the program that you're using. And most people, they think this is organization. Okay, the vast majority of people, they're like, I have all my projects in my project list. This is good to go. Well, it works for you on your one computer, but how does it work across every single other computer that you add it onto? How, like, just because, well, this list is a list of all the locations in your computer and just in your computer. Well, this is where we want to start building templates. And templates, well, technically, we already did build a template. This document folder that we structured together with all of our assets, docs, final render, and other, right? This is technically a template, but now we're going to be creating per program templates. So I'm going to start a new project, and we're going to call this stream demo template. Any program, guys, I'm not even joking. Even if it comes to photo editing or audio editing, any Adobe editing program, any video, whatever. I used to use I used to use Vegas Pro. It doesn't matter. You want to set up your templates. And I'm not going to go over the specifics of building templates here inside DaVinci itself, but you always want to know, like you see, I'm starting dead from a standard nothingness template. Well, if I always want to have something like, let's put our icon on there. Let's go our assets, images. We'll stick our new icon in there. Let's say I always want my icon to be on the screen, but I want it to be top left, or I want it to be in a specific location that I don't know. I'm gonna grab it. I'm gonna move it down there. Boom. We have our new logo. Let's say I want to have it as transparent. We're going to set it up as transparent. So we're going to grab the opacity, break that down, and save. Okay. What I also do too, we're going to go save project as. Stream demo template copy save. Is it going to give me a location? It's been a while since I've done this. Sorry guys. 1 second here. Save project as, cancel. Are you going to give me it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Okay, this is where we do everything. Can't remember. Stream demo. So I'm not even going to look it up. Oh man, I might have screwed myself up here. It's been a while since I've made templates. Either way, okay. We're just going to consider that file sitting around, but just to show everybody, if I want to start a new project, at least I have my template up there. DaVinci Resolve. So I close my project down. I open it up. I want to start a new project with that that setup, that template, that whatever. We'll wait till it loads. Come on, let's go. And there we have my stream template copy. Now I click on this, I'm in. My thing's in the corner, and I can go in and take whatever video I want from my video share folder. Let's use recording. Right, boom. And then now you guys can see the bottom left corner, we have my icon. But then we also have all the video content running in the background. I would like to talk a little bit about workflows inside programs. Now, never assume that your workflow is perfect and always look up new workflows. There's so many times where I spent weeks doing something that could have been done in one or two clicks in every single program. And I literally mean every single program. I've used FL Studios. Even I don't want to bring that up actually. It's gonna mess with my audio drivers. Excuse me, if you're dealing with photo programs, figure out the shortcuts for that program. Cool. Sorry. That will, whenever you want to do something, look it up and see if someone has done it faster. Because you can hinder yourself by getting attached to workflows, getting attached to the way that you put your content together, which I'm not even joking. I have tried to help a lot of people, and I've actually had a lot of people ask me for help. And then I go, well, how do you do this? And they're like, well, I do it this way. And I go, well, you can do it a faster way. And they go, I like this way. Now, there always is a best way to build content. There always is a best way. People will say that there's a million different other ways. Yes, there are a million ways to create content. There are a million tools out there, but when you're using one specific tool, there always will be the fastest way to put that content together. So don't hesitate to go look it up. Don't have too big of an ego to go look it up, because it frustrates me, and I know a lot of people who have tried and failed their content creation, mostly because they refuse to learn, or they got too attached to doing things in the way that they want to do them. So don't get attached to an unsuccessful workflow more than anything else. That is like fail faster is a good phrase, is a common I guess, not ideology, what is it? A common method, right? Failing faster, understanding when you've done something the slow way, or at least always thinking you do it the slow way. I always think I do it the slow way, because now there's some things I do that take minutes that used to take hours. So anyways, okay, so I think this goes over the basics of direct content creation from a large overview in terms of the technology, what your expectations should be, what your objectives should be for this type of content creation with the technology. That's what I wanted to focus on right now with the technology. I need a few seconds here, guys, to go to the bathroom to have another drink break. And I will come back we'll be doing a part 2 in about 5-10 minutes, probably a little less than 10 minutes. I'll be here in about 5 minutes, but we'll start in about 10 minutes. We'll do a section on story creation, on live performance. I have done a lot of live performance in my life, a lot of improv in my life. So structuring the times when I've failed at it are the times that I haven't structured my performances properly, or even there's a weird, I'm not gonna go in, we'll go on later, but there's a weird mix between having fun versus between having fun and being entertaining. And we'll go over that, like I say, guys, in about 10 minutes here. I'm gonna take a quick 5-minute water break. For YouTube, guys, if you watch the whole thing, and even guys for on Twitch, this will be going up on YouTube a little later, please subscribe to the channel too. I'm doing all sorts of stuff online, all sorts of media content online right now, trying out different avenues, and there'll be more information, more fun stuff hidden in my streams there. So check it out. Sulack Streams on YouTube. Subscribe, all that kind of stuff. All right, guys, I will be back in just a quick minute. I'm dying.